Hello, my dear students. Welcome to the session number 6 of the Model Developmental Psychology tool. Today I will not take that long in this video because you will already have a talk on addiction. As you know, I'm supposed for you to be on Monday at 3:30 in the Auditorium do Bosco to listen a talk around 60 minutes about addiction. I invited Ruth Borges from the ARTM to talk to you about this. So today I will not take that long on the video. I just want to highlight one aspect that is particularly important. I shared the vocabulary with you for this session, and this is what we are supposed to do today. You will have the talk, then I will just a little bit highlight what is more important for family as a context of development for adolescents, in order to prepare you more for the exercise that I asked you to do. And on Monday, after the talk, I ask you to go back to the classroom because we will listen to the presentations of Michael and Chris about adolescence. So, besides talking about risk behaviors in adolescence, and for that we will have the talk, but attention, because next week I will give you a quiz about the talk, so please be attentive to the talk because you will be evaluated by your answers to that quiz. I would like to highlight the importance of family as a context of development. Indeed, adolescence is a transition in many domains, but is also a very important transition in the type of relationship that the parents have with their kids. Indeed, as you will see, adolescence is a period of development in which even the adults have to change and make an important shift in the way they conceive and the way they look at their kids that are becoming young adults. And there are different levels of family influence. Family, the relationship that the adolescence has in the family affects the adolescent relationships, affects the school performance and the success that the adolescents have in different activities. And this will bring also what happens now in adolescence will also affect how the relationship between in the family will be in adult life. But the most important aspects of the family relationship of the adolescents that I would like to highlight are these two variables, closeness and conflict. Uh, Indeed, closeness is very important for the well-being of adolescents. In the way, the degree in which the adolescents they feel that they are affected and connected with their families is very important for them. And this involves aspects like interdependence, intimacy, closeness, trust, and communication. But family functioning of adolescence also includes conflicts. Indeed, it's important for you to be aware that conflict is a part of a family with adolescents. And this happens because adolescents are in a process of growing up and becoming more autonomous and independent, and the adults they need to change the way they look at their kids, and this process of the parents to change the ship that they have then in their mind, the mental map that they have about their kids, this process takes longer than the process of requesting and demanding autonomy that the adolescents have. So the conflict and this is the main idea I want you to keep, the conflict inside the family is expected because it will allow the members of the family to adjust their roles. It will make the adolescents to acquire a new more responsibilities and more autonomous roles in the families, and it will allow the parents to change their own roles in the relationship with their kids, to make them being more companions, more partners in their own development, and the conflict might be necessary for this. Of course, that the persistence of conflict that is not resolved is not good. So it's not expected that we have systematically a family in conflict without resolution. What is expected is that in a family with adolescents, we have conflicts, but those conflicts would have resolutions, that the family will have strategies to resolve these conflicts. And when we talk about a conflict in the family, this is exactly the same way the same that we have in any play or novel. A conflict, when it appears in a family, it includes a script, and this script involves different aspects. The participants, like in any movie, you have the characters. In this case, the participants, and usually you have the protagonist and antagonist. You have the protagonist, which is usually the adolescent who wants something, and you have the antagonist, which is the family, the relatives, the parents, who are an obstacle for this thing that the protagonist wants. Then you have the theme, the topic that is related to the conflict. And then you have the complication, the initiation. So when the topic appeared, there is something that triggers the conflict and the action of the conflict. But after that, is expected that the family will have resources to find a resolution, a positive resolution. And the type of resolution that the family will find, is the outcome, will be related to different outcomes. So positive resolutions of conflicts will bring positive outcomes also for the family. So the conflict is not bad by itself. The conflict might be important for the members of the family to adjust their roles. What is important is to find a positive resolution for those conflicts. So the exercise that I asked you to do, and we'll find a few minutes on Monday to discuss about this too, is for you to think about a typical conflict that you might find in Macau or based on your experience between in adolescents in Macau. I gave this a typical example of a possible topic for a conflict. We have the participant, the adolescent, and the mother, and the mother is calling him for dinner, and he wants to continue playing on the computer. And this might be one to be on the computer and not to participate in the daily routines of the family, might be one theme or one topic for conflict in the family. So what I want you to do is to think about a typical conflict, something that maybe you experienced as an adolescent, but I want you to think about a typical conflict that you might find in families with adolescents in Macau. Don't forget to write about who are the participants, what is the topic, what was the moment of the initiation to start the conflict, how the conflict, what was the resolution for the conflict, and what were the outcomes for this conflict. Well, as you said, and I have now a couple of slides to highlight the importance of the conflict and how it is related to various dimensions of family functioning, and also the closeness that is between adolescence and conflict. And indeed, when we have conflict, that also means that the adolescents are willing to express what they feel. So closeness and conflict, they don't need necessarily to be completely different things. Because when an adolescent is willing to express and to say what they want and what they think, that means that they are more close to their parents. But sometimes when they express what they think or they feel, this might trigger a conflict. So closeness and conflict are not necessarily different things. Indeed, when you talk about closeness and intimacy between adolescents and parents, what happens is that the type of behaviors related to be close to the parents changes. Now is not that much cuddling or direct interaction, but parents and adolescents, they find different ways to show and to share that they are intimate and they are close to each other. I have some reflection about the importance of closeness and conflict on adolescence. It might be important for you to take a look at this, but the most important idea that I would like to clearly highlight is that um, conflict in the families is as I wrote here, is an opportunity to shift power dynamics in the family. Indeed, people, adolescents and the families, they start to struggle because indeed they need to change their roles and the dynamic of powers has to change towards a more egalitarian relationship. Indeed, it is expected because adolescent is becoming an adult, and adolescents they know that they need to start to take their own decisions and to practice to be self-determined and to make their own decisions. But indeed, sometimes it's hard for parents to accept that, and it's hard for parents to change and adapt to this new situation. That's why as we can see in this graphic about stability in the families with adolescents, we can see that families with kids from 13 to 16 are those families who have lower stability. That means that the more critical period for conflict in the families are when families have kids between 13 and 16 years old. So this is the period of development in which is expected to exist more conflicts in the families. And the studies are showing that the most emotional and tense conflict or relationship is the one that happens between mother and daughter. Well, when we have the two women, the mother and the adolescent daughter, is when the risk for a higher conflict exists. Um, of course, that to have continuous conflict is not good for development, but as I told you, the conflict with a positive resolution might strengthen the relationship, providing a good vehicle for communication. So the conflict is bad if it is persistent and doesn't have a positive resolution. But when we have conflict, that means that we are open and we can communicate, and the relationship can become more stronger when families can have conflicts and solve them. This means that families who have adolescents, they are in a process of adaptation. Families need to adapt. So the more flexible and willing to adapt both the adolescents but also the parents are, the best for the family. So indeed, the big point is this. Everybody expects adolescents to change. Everybody expects that the adolescents are in a process of growing up and they will expect and require and demand new things. But sometimes people don't expect adults to change. But what we need to highlight, and when in the future you will be counselors, we need to think is that, yes, adults also needs to change. I'm a father, and if my kids are changing, if they are growing up, I also have to change my way of approaching and looking at them. And this capacity for me and all the family to adapt to a growing up member, that is really important for stability and harmony. Uh, and I put here a very nice poem from the book The Prophet of Khalil Gibran that expresses this idea in a very, very nice way. This idea that me as an adult, I have to accept that my kids are growing up and that at some point they will leave home and they will be autonomous, they will be by themselves. And it's during the process of adolescence that I, as an adult, as a father, I have to adapt to that, to the moment that when they will be young adults, they will leave home. And this starts in adolescence. And if, as an adult, I will not start this process with my kids together, I will suffer in the future. So this idea of adaptation in families and to practice and to train for autonomy of our kids is really, really important. And this will be positive for the achievements that the adolescents will have in the future, but also for the future relationship that I will have with them when they will become adults. So to conclude with this idea that we all need to change our mental maps. Indeed, is like we have here in this example of Alfred Korzybski, who says that the map is not the territory. When we have a reality, we create a mental map about that reality. But if the reality changes, we also need to change our mental map. We cannot keep an old map in your mind that does not reflect the reality that we have in front of us. So if our family is changing, if our kids are growing up and changing, we have to change our maps. And this capacity to change mental maps and to adjust to the new realities is very functional and is important for the well-being of all the members of the family and for the family as a whole. So I have other aspects for this class, but because you have the lecture, and the lecture will be around 60 minutes, I don't want you to take longer. All the aspects that we have here about family will be important for you. All the aspects that you have later about risk behaviors in adolescence, I decided to put it on the slides, but you don't have to study it because that will be substituted by the talk that you will have. So, my dear students, thank you so much for your attention, and I hope to see you on Monday for the class at 3:30 in Don Bosco Auditorium. Please be there on time, okay? Thank you so much, and have a nice weekend.